It's interesting what you said, because it kind of brings us to a really important point, is that the police officers, and that for me was one of my awarenesses working with Phoenix Police, was that police officers have to be trained to do so much. Like you said, social worker, you're a social worker, you work with homeless populations, mental health, people that are a risk to themselves, or violent people, in domestic violence situations. So you have to face so many different types and kinds of people, and then not only to mention cultural issues or gender identity issues. So what kind of support is there, or has there been with the Biloxi Police Department?
I would say, first of all,
how do you manage that?
We manage that with training. Frankly, it's just as simple as that. Training is available, and it's available often,
Encouraged.
and it's encouraged, supported.
Yeah.
When I had signed up for the racial equity training given by the East Biloxi Collaborative, right?
Yeah, EBCC.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had signed up for it. I had signed up for it. My agency offered it, and COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a huge delay, and the training I thought was canceled, but as they were working out how they were going to provide that training, we came back online, and it was through Zoom. Biloxi supported that. That gives us extra tools in our police tool bag when we go into situations like that. CIT, they offered it to many officers, crisis intervention training. It was put on by the Pine Belt Mental Health.
It's Pine Belt Mental Health.
Yeah.
Pine Belt Mental Health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, which gives us tools in our toolbox to deal with people in crisis, mental crisis. We have a crisis negotiation team. We can meet people in crisis and connect them in ways that other agencies around here can't, that aren't CIT trained, because sometimes our citizens, or the unsheltered, sometimes their cooperation from the ambulance service, they have worn them out. They refuse to transport.
Right.
We have the ability to transport someone in crisis ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the city of Biloxi has recognized that we have citizens in our community that need this service, and they have provided that. Also, just on a working patrol level division, with the lieutenants, the sergeants, and the police officers, if there is someone in crisis, we can divert personnel on my shift, and I know across the board, there are CIT officers on every shift. So if someone was in crisis here at Back Bay and I was working over by the mall, they would say, hey, send someone over there to cover him, send him over here, and do that. So, not only is it's supported from the top down and the bottom up, training and putting resources where they need to be so that it can be effective, and we can resolve someone that's in crisis and connect them to the right service, which is not arresting them for the trespassing call that we may have been called for,
Right.
So we're just there's a bigger issue here, and some of that training allows us to recognize that and to act accordingly.
Yeah.
I've had to use him because sometimes, even as a case manager, we can't get through to get the help we need for our sheltered and unsheltered. And if CIT officer calls and says there's a crisis, they always respond. They respond. I have literally had him on a crisis call with me, and I'll call, they won't come. This is prior to the change over to Pine Belt. This was before Pine Belt.
Yeah.
And he'll call, and they will respond. They will call when he comes, and we've had to do that with individuals before, because we ultimately have to call the police department out, or if they're already called, and he'll let me know, it's your client, and then I'll come out, and I'll respond and come out. Most of my clients know who he is anyways. Some of them ask for him by name. Hey, can you get Hollis to come over here? Oh, we trust him. I get a lot of we trust him. So we'll come out and we'll have to use his standing with the law enforcement or the CIT training to get the right people to respond to our crisis situations as well. So that's a huge help to us because they do come when he calls.
Yeah,
Wow,
see,
that's
that's
awesome.
that's a sign that dirt road is now paved and has lanes.
We have flowers on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But like, you know, and that's how we can work with one another to help.
Partnerships.
Like, you know, it's not just, you know, like we respond to many situations, and sometimes we respond here as another tool in your tool belt to help serve, you know, our community.
Well, that's a really powerful statement, you know, you made about trust. They trust Hollis.
Very much.
Because so many people living on the streets, unsheltered or homeless, have issues with trust. If you don't have mental health issues before you're on the streets, you will while you're on the streets, right? Because it's a difficult life.
Absolutely.
And especially the fear, schizophrenia, or anxiety around other people. You know, that's really amazing that they say, hey, I trust this individual.
They were just
And it's
talking about him,
building
and
trust.
they all think it's hilarious. We're getting married, so they were over there. We were doing a puzzle next door the other day, and they said, "You still marrying Smith?" And I said, "Oh yeah, we're getting married in a couple of days." And they're like, "He's a good one because he may arrest you for what you've done, but he's going to preach to you the whole way there and save you in the end."
That's great.
They go, he's going to save you in the end.
Yeah, I mean that's you know, that's an important connection that
It's an opportunity.
that's one of the things I actually love about my police department. Like when I first got down here, you know, was being sworn in, and before we started, we had a chaplain come in and pray, and I was like, wow, like that. I was really kind of blown away because it never would happen
in the north.
No.
The south is different.
And it's been that way with events I've went to here, like the state of Biloxi luncheon at the Beau Rivage. They started with prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah.
I haven't done the Pledge of Allegiance for
Forever.
how many
Since I
years?
was
I
young.
know.
That's
And we still do it
right.
at the schools, every
Right.
event at the schools.
They don't pray up north before
No.
big
No.
banquets, you know,
No.
or even in Arizona, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen,
No.
right?
So that was, I mean, that just kind of let me know that, you know, that still matters
Yeah.
here, and it matters, you know, to my police department. It matters to our community, and it lets me know that, you know, that we're coming with a standard. When you're praying and you are inviting, you know, and you're starting off events that way, you know, that lets me know that there is at least some sort of a moral code there that we are trying to follow, attain to.
And an acknowledgement that there's a higher power,
Yes.
right, than us.
And like,
Yeah.
you know, that verse I shared earlier, when I discovered that, I took it as a personal creed on how, you know, as set up boundaries of how I'm going to work with everyone. And, you know, so it makes me very proud to work for a department that serves the community
Right.
in that way.
Well, it says on your shirt, and this is kind of what I'd like to close with, it says Justice and Dignity, Biloxi Police Department. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is that how that is kind of woven into the work you do? It sounds like part of it is because there's acknowledgement of a higher power and kind of a moral code, like you said.
I mean, it sets up, you know, for us, our leadership, when they acknowledge that, it's like they're taking on a servant leadership role. And as community servants, I think when our citizens see this, that they should, you know, hopefully they're making that connection that, you know, we all serve a higher power, and Jesus led through that example of a servant leadership. And to the residents of our community, we want to be servant leaders. We're here to serve you, but we also want to lead this community as well. And as we have took, you know, a forefront in building bridges to our unsheltered citizens here, and opening up trusted roadways of conversation, that the next whatever comes up next, that we will handle it the same way, that we will train, that we will work hard to open up pathways of communication and connect services.
Well, I appreciate it. Any final words from either of you? I'm I'm excited that you're going to be getting married. Is it a marriage made in heaven?
Yeah, well,
I said like
you met doing good work
Doing
together,
good
right?
deeds.
and
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I saw her and her compassion and that, I was just like, Christ works through her, and
Yeah.
then it's just
he said
you
that's
know.
how he knew he loved me.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, well,
Yeah.
sometimes I have these thoughts, and I might need a little more Christ working through me. So
Thank goodness
But-
you have me, darling.
yeah. So, but
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
that was a good thing.
Well, one of my other staff, we just had a conversation this morning, Ashley Kiona, about God at work in us, right? And how God is love and love is God, and we share love. And that's the greatest gift we can share with anybody, whether it's somebody who's unsheltered, somebody you're case managing, somebody you're policing, right? It's doing it with dignity and doing it to really promote justice, which is really part of who we are as Back Bay Mission.
Yeah.
Sarah?
I'm very thankful for the Biloxi Police, even the new homeless liaison that works. I mean, they work too.
Jason Cunningham.
Yeah.
Jason
Cummings.
Yeah,
Cummings,
Cummings. Yeah.
yes.
He'll go out and help verify homelessness so we can get them in the programs. If we feel unsafe going into the woods looking for the homeless, they will accompany us into the woods. Like, they really have made it a mission to change what we think policing has historically been. I'm here to arrest and maintain order. They've really changed the role of law enforcement here in Biloxi. Like, you can really see it. I hope it's a model to other law enforcement agencies, that really that idea of working together and treating people in kindness. I feel very grateful. I'm grateful how I met Hollis. I still enjoy working with him. He still calls me. He just calls me from the other side of town when he runs into people, and he just knows I'm gonna come. Doesn't matter what crazy call he puts me on.
Yeah.
I've come to the beaches. We've gone to bus stops. I
Yeah.
mean, we've just been woods, camps.
And and probably I've volunteered up here, and probably
Yeah,
once
thank
we
you.
get settled down on the blend, the
Well,
twine,
The twining.
Yeah.
Your blended family.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
we're blending and twining. Once we get through with that, and we kind of settle down. I'll usually come up here on my off days and sit up in the front and
Correct. Yeah. Pick at 'em.
encourage some and harass others. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we
But,
thank you for doing that,
yeah.
for being a safe place for unsheltered people.
Yeah.
Because, I'm inevitably called down, usually once or twice a day, to kind of converse with somebody who's unsheltered here. And it's really about just making, like you said, it's bridges.
Yeah.
Building bridges, not walls. We don't
Yeah.
need any more walls.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, really critical work. So
Yeah.
I thank you for that. And a shout out to police officers, a shout out to our police department. And that's awesome that our police department is changing the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And changing
Indeed.
the dynamics of policing, which is important, right?
Yeah.
So we really appreciate that and appreciate your work here at Back Bay, and of course Sarah too.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today. Catch us next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
And
We
we'll
have in the fire department, right?
yeah, right.